Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Venus, our Mars day. Venus is in 0 degree Taurus, applying to square Pluto in the coming week, and we're heading towards the new moon in Libra. So today the moon will go over the last decan of Virgo, and tomorrow the first decan of Libra, and then we're going to have full moon in the middle decan of Libra. Some cool things that this full moon is good for. If you're working on mathematical equation or development of equations, Hasta Nakshatra is going to give you full disclosure or full view of anything to do with symmetry. So if you're working on developing a mathematical equation, or you have been trying, particularly if you have been trying to balance two sides of an equation in a symmetrical way, or to represent mathematically something in a symmetrical way, this full moon is going to be very benefic. Venus is going to be in a home sign of Taurus, so mathematical equations describing anything to do with land, yes, matter, and the connection between forces. Venus is going to be applying to Pluto from her home sign, so the connection between forces of matter, and Mars is going to be still in Pisces, water dynamics, any equations to do with water dynamics. With Mars, we're talking about water in its dynamical phase. So what happens when water is in a certain telos? So it can be equations describing waves, equations describing waterfalls, hydropower, the friction of water against land. If you're trying to balance temperatures, the temperature of the water and and its relation to the velocity, any refinement, or if you are studying such equations like Bernoulli equations, and you have been having a hard time to figure out how do things balance, this one is going to be really, really cool transit for seeing the full picture of such equations in weapon developments and radiation, because Saturn is ruling over Neptune. You might see more clearly the effect of radiation that was hidden. So Neptune is also hidden and radiation, and particularly if you're looking into water, so bodies of water, calculation of the lifetime or half the lifetime of medicine can also be supported. Anything that is chemical, okay? Those are the type of equations. Other than that, architectonic equations that pay emphasis on symmetry and sound. I have been seeing all these cathedrals design in the particular resonance and the spirit rooms and so on. So if you have been inspired by these projects to design a structure, then particularly if that structure has a spiritual component to sound, sound waves, this can be very, very supportive for such projects. If you begin with the moon phase before it is full moon, it might even be opportune to present such projects. If you're doing presentation and launching and you have female reproductive system, pay attention to what phase you are. The phase of ovulating is usually best for you to present a project, because this is a phase where you're more outgoing, basically fertilizing something, and that can be excellent with this nakshatra. Hasta nakshatra also rules hands and hands healing. Mercury here is in Pisces, things that have to do with like Reiki are very favored upon this time. If you're a practitioner, you might be, yes, with Mars 23 degrees, not as it is now, you might be launching something like that. Just pay attention to Venus applying to square Pluto. And or if you have been energy heal, if you have been having issues with energy and hands, um, the energy exercise of even um, you know, swishing your palms against one another and creating heat, they can actually be very benefic. Also, if you put the hands on the lower back, so you might see in full picture if there have been any hacking to the nervous system of your hands, and you might be able to balance issues with the hands, whether it's temperature related, consciousness related, because Mercury in sign of Pisces is consciousness, um, discernment when channeling energy through the hands, um, hand gestures that are invisible might become apparent if people are hacking into nervous system to try to make people have certain hand gestures. You might be able to fully see and to fully balance such an issue. And in jurisdiction, people that do jurisdiction or any type of consolidation, can be opportune time where you can fully see the picture and begin to come up with the verdict, begin to even the scales. Um, mm, 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 mm. More things to do with this type of configuration. Think mathematical equation design, fashion design. Okay, very good for anything that requires color balance can be absolutely great because Venus, the air sign of Venus, is very good for the arts that come from an intellectual perspective and a symmetrical aesthetical perspective. Now, because Venus is in her home sign ruling over Uranus, we may find symmetry in asymmetry. Unusual beauty standards. I've seen that particularly with the Venus Rahu eclipse in Pisces. New beauty standards may come to the surface, unusual beauty standards. We might be liberating beauty standards, and we might find symmetry in places we previously thought were asymmetrical. This can have implications also on the depiction of the weather, because Libra is an air sign, and so regulating weather in a more healthy way rather than a toxic way, we may find ways to do that or equations to describe that, or even disclose weather regulation, and that may have implication on the land. So even regulation, protection against, let's say, earthquakes can be favored with this time. And one may, by the way, if you've been working on those fields, then my best advice to you is watch for the Epstein list, Epstein ring, and similar ring effect on academic study, research development, and pitches and funding. Because you may have the chance to fully disclose the Epstein as bias to scientific endeavor, which can pave the path to actually implement the many solutions that are there for all of these topics that I mentioned. Um, Financially, if you've been trying to financially balance something, this can be a time where you can see in full disclosure what were the blocks or what was keeping you from let's say, being in good financial balance, or for your money to money. And if people have been misusing you for profit, you might get, this is a time where the scale gets even. Um, and yeah, so if anybody knows that they did wrong, let's say, now would be the time to go short on it in the coming days. So that by the time that it is fully visible, they've already corrected. They're like, yes, yes, I did that wrong, and I corrected this, um, and the correction has to be to the core, because we want to get out of the data, so we cannot be, let's say, somebody profited off of illegal footage, basically footage taken of somebody where they're not aware of that. Then they cannot just compensate monetarily. They have to find solution that will prevent them from ever doing that again, and compensate not just monetarily, but also, and not just in terms of like reputation, but also um, the full effect. Okay, the psychological effect, the physical effect, the medical effect, the housing effect, the economy, the opportunities, the overall life expectancy, and so on and so forth.